Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Lead, Thrive, Revive. I am one of your co hosts, Leigh Felton. I am joined here by Dr. Diane Gregorio, whom is a very amazing woman. And we'll get into how we met and why we decided to try out this format in a minute. But really just wanted to just say hello to everyone. Welcome. This is an opportunity. Let me first say, welcome to Mental Health Awareness Month. And as I tell people regularly, for anything, whether it's mental health awareness, whether it's Black History Month, you name it, every month should be awareness of our intersectional identities and appreciation for all of the things that we each bring to the table. So, although it's officially being recognized for Mental Health Awareness this month, I do hope that you are looking at yourself and understanding, yourself and who you are, where you are mentally, all of those things. I hope you're doing that on a daily basis. So, again, my name is Leigh Felton, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a strategist, consultant, hopefully activist and influencer in the space of authentic leadership, in the space of technology equity. I was a 20-year chief of staff to CEOs at organizations like Microsoft, Mozilla, wrote the book on the topic. And these days, it really is just about connecting with all of the various generations and individuals out there in hopes of bringing some awareness of, the journey that I went through in being able to embrace and love myself unconditionally, being able to embrace that and share that with others to hopefully hope you can get there one day too. So my co-host on Lead, Thrive, Revive, Life Beyond Burnout is a true expert in this space. And I am honored and privileged to be able to share the stage with her. Dr. Diane Gregorio, hello, welcome. And why don't you just take a few minutes to introduce yourself?
Hello, Leigh. I'm so glad this moment has finally come. We've been talking about this for a minute, and I'm so glad that it coincides, as you said, with Mental Health Awareness Month. And I couldn't have said it better myself. So, hey, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Dr. Diane, and I'm an organizational psychologist. And I think over the last 4 or 5 years, my main focus has been on coaching and teaching people on emotional resilience skills. And coming out of that, it became so clear how pervasive this phenomenon of burnout has become. I mean, across the board in every industry at every level. And so, uh, when Leigh and I started to talk about it, we started to compare notes about, well, what do we think is the source of burnout? And we found some common ground in there. And so it's just such an honor and a pleasure to be together with Leigh. And, you know, you're being so kind and saying I'm, a real expert in this topic. And I want to say that the one of the top reasons why I'm an expert in this topic is not necessarily from my research background, my teaching background, my coaching background. All of that is true because people who know me know that I'm a total science nerd and I love to bring in the latest research about neuroscience and psychology and biology and all of that. But the main reason that I know about this topic is because I've been there. There have been times, and we'll get into this, right? There have been times in my life where I just reached that point of complete burnout and had to find my way out of it. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And even to this day, I still have to be vigilant every single day about what are the early warning signs? What can I do to transform it? Because I'll tell y'all, I have a young child, 5-year-old, and I have an elderly mom who lives with me, and also work and community and all the things that you all certainly have too. So all of us need to stay vigilant about taking care of this before it gets to that point. So if I'm an expert at all, which I have been, thinking about it and coaching on it and teaching on it, it's primarily because we've been there. I've been there, and I know Leigh, you've been there too.
Oh, I've definitely been there, but we are at different stages. I do not have, even though between my husband and I, we have a total of 7 kids, 5 of which we raised together for the last 11 years. My oldest is now going into his junior year in high school. So
Right.
I don't have babies in the house. So I know that, it's different stages. And I try to tell people all the time, it's not about a comparison to say, your situation is more difficult or mine is more difficult. People always talk about, for instance, when we all went through COVID and the lockdown that we had during COVID, people were saying, okay, who has it worse? Is it the individuals who, have to be with their spouse or their partners or their families 24/7 for 2 years? Or is it the individuals who aren't in a situation to be around anybody during that time? So it's definitely not, it's not a comparison. And I do have another series that I host on monthly as well, which is around understanding the chief of staff role and how to run your business and how to run your life and how to run your executive office. And on that, I always tell people it's important for me to know who's out there. I like to engage with people, with actual individuals, not, as Dr. Diane and I were discussing, this is not us just talking to each other or talking to a screen. This is us, as human beings on this side of the camera, and you as human beings on that side of the camera, engaging and interacting and sharing stories and sharing knowledge and just supporting one another. I'd like to know who's out there. So I'm going to ask Dr. Diane a question, but as she is answering, I would love for the individuals who are out there, the only way we can engage in this particular format is through the I am window. So if you're out there and you just want to say hi, would absolutely love to hear from you so we can know who we're talking to. So please take a moment and just tell us hi. Let us know where you're calling in from. So on that note, Dr. Diane, you talked about burnout and the fact that, yes, I have definitely, after 25 years in corporate, I've definitely experienced it a few times, not just once. And you
Yes.
said in your life, you've also experienced it. Can you help the audience better understand when you talk about burnout, what are you actually talking about? What does that actually mean?
Right. Well, if any of you have been online or on social media these days, there's a ton of discussion going on right now about burnout, right? And one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the explanations seem to be focusing on, from at least from my perspective, on the symptoms of burnout rather than the root causes. So you hear things emphasized like the physical exhaustion, right? The fatigue. You also hear people talking about feeling disengaged from your work or lacking motivation. And for me, of course, that those are all very important characteristics of burnout. And as you mentioned, COVID, I mean, pretty much all of us are in it right now, right? And even not in the pandemic situation, just the state of the workplace in 21st century world that we live in, pretty much all of us are experiencing these various symptoms of burnout. And so for me, I think the reason why, there's a couple of reasons why that framing of burnout is a little bit unsatisfying to me. One is, as I already said, it's addressing more of the symptoms rather than the root. And I'll tell you in a moment what I think the root is, which is, people often talk about, well, you need to do self-care, right? Or you need to think about the way you organize your workplace or your workflows, all your chief of staff audience out there, right? It's all about organizing the workflows. And again, those are all important. But here's what I would like to offer as an alternative framing of burnout is the suppression of our authenticity, including suppression of our genuine or authentic emotions. Right now, all of us, without exception, right, have learned any social situation that we go in, and especially in the workplace, uh, we figured out what's the character that I have to play in order to succeed in this particular context, right? Whether it's corporate, nonprofit, even just a social situation like a cocktail party, right? What's the character that I need to play in order to get by in this situation, right? And we all do that. Then never mind if you are a BIPOC person, a person of color, or if you're a queer person, or you're a neurodivergent person, then on top of the regular amount of character playing we have to play, you have all of those on top. Now, for me, if I'm saying burnout is the suppression of authenticity, is the suppression of your genuine emotions, if you're playing this character, right, all day long, without letting even a little smidgen of your authentic self come through, that's pretty exhausting. I mean, I don't know about you, but there were days when I would come home and I would just flop on the couch. And it took me a while to realize how much energy I was expending playing this character that had only a slight resemblance to who I was authentically. So there's a lot to unpack in there. And I wonder what you think about that, because of course I could start hearing the questions popping that people might ask about, well, how am I going to succeed if I don't play the character, et cetera, right? So I know you have something to say about that.
And I absolutely love that you brought it up. You bring it up in terms of being a character. I always talk about it in terms of a persona. So, and it comes from marketing and comms background in corporate. So I know that's very corporate speak, but in corporate, in the corporate world, you have these different personas that you're tailoring products, or you're tailoring communications, or you're tailoring your engagement to. And these personas are made up of all types of, different whether it is, diverse race or ethnicities, religions, gender, all of those things. And it's very interesting to me when you talk about your authenticity, and that burnout comes when you're playing this character or you're playing this persona. So I had a persona during the majority of my corporate life. I had a persona, and the persona, I always didn't turn my camera on, for instance, because I identify as a Black, neurodiverse female, queer, and that's part of my intersection. A lot of other things, but those are core to my intersectionality. And for instance, I move a lot. When I think and I'm trying to absorb things that people are saying, I close my eyes. And a lot of people during meetings, during COVID, when we've had to turn our cameras on during meetings, a lot of people are asking, "Oh, Leigh, are you sleeping?" Or Leigh, you're shaking your head. No, what are you disagreeing with? And so for the longest time, I didn't turn my camera on because the persona, the character that I wanted to play was one of an executive leader. And so I would show up to work every day with this predetermined notion of what an executive leader at one of these, Fortune 500 companies look like. And you can only imagine in my head and in a lot of people's head what that presents itself as, typically male, confident, white, very, assured, and very engaged. And being in my situation, you're exactly right about it being draining, just draining by the time, and especially as a chief of staff, as a COO, as head of operations, as head of strategy for a business, you're always on and making sure you're taking care of other people, making sure other people understand exactly what is going on in their jobs, in the business, and the priorities. And so by the time I made it home, playing this persona as an executive white male leader, whatever that may mean to different people, I would be so exhausted, to the point where even my family would say, "Don't you organize so much stuff at home? It's like you can't even remember, my orchestra, event or this or that." And so I totally get where you're coming from. I do want to take one moment because we have a few people who have said hi to us, and I
Okay.
absolutely love that.
Me
I
too.
love that Julie from Danville, Virginia. She's listening. Alexia, mwah, mwah, mwah. Nice to see you on
Hey.
here. Alexia Claiborne, whom we've both worked with for a few years now, from Redmond, Washington, my hometown Microsoft, because I consider Microsoft is like own little town. Lori from California, nice to see you on here. And Willette, also from California, nice to see you on here. Jill, another one of my absolute favorite people. Jill is calling in from Connecticut. So thank you to everyone who has taken time out of your Fridays to join us here and just to learn how to tap into who you are and how that can help move you into a more comfortable space and place of being your authentic self and being able to cope with that burnout. Now, would you say, I say being able to cope with the burnout because I think it surrounds us. I'm not quite sure if, like, I've embraced myself wholly. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you see me, you see Leigh. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever environment that I'm in, whether I'm
That's the truth,
home or
y'all.
whether
True.
I'm in the workplace, when you see me, you see Leigh. Would you say that burnout is something that you can or cannot control?
Well, I think this is an important question, right? Because first thing that we just did was we tried to reframe what burnout is, to focus more on what we were talking about are the roots of burnout, right? And then another layer of it is to start to reflect on or analyze what are the inner causes of burnout and what are the external causes of burnout, right? And so I kind of think of it as concentric circles. And the reason why we're talking about authenticity first is I feel like that's the most inner circle of it, right? And then, of course, things, external factors, for example, the way that workflows are organized or the way that organizational cultures are embodied, et cetera, they all, there's an interaction between the internal factors like authenticity, the personas you think you have to play, they interact together. But the reason why I'm focusing on the inner factors is because that's the leverage point. That's the leverage point from which you can ripple out and start to affect change, especially if other people on your team or other people that you're working with are uh, also doing that work, right? So if the question is there anything that we can do about it? Can we transform it? The answer is absolutely yes. But we have to really understand have a more nuanced analysis of what's the inner factors I can control, what are the external factors I can and can't control. But nonetheless, who we are here and our the bravery and the courage that it does take to start to be more authentic in the workplace is the primary lever for affecting
Right.
change. At least that's my experience and my uh, track record working with clients and working with teams. What do you think?
And I think you said it beautifully because I mean, I don't know, like, even at this stage in life, um, I'm guessing just like, when we talk about work-life balance, when we talk about a lot of different things, the meaning has to be personal. It has to
Mhm.
be personal for you and personal for your approach. And so as people consider burnout, a lot of times people are like, okay, burnout basically means I need to take a break. I need to step away from whatever it is that I have going on because, as you said at the beginning, I can't cope with this. I'm burnt out. I'm burning inside. The person that I am just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel normal. Can there be quiet? I mean, because to me, you've gotten to the point where it's a breaking point.
Mhm.
And so can you see it beyond that it's not just, burnout being this breaking point, but burnout being that exhaustion too, that is an aspect of burnout. And what advice do you have to people, that say, well, I'm not burnt out yet because I'm still functioning, I'm still going in, I'm still, thriving, and I'm getting my promotions, or I'm getting my pay raises, I'm doing extremely well, so I'm not burnt out yet.
Right. So interesting, right? That we only label it burnout when we're at the breaking point already, right? Like if it's still working for you, then somehow you're not burnt out, right? But in the meantime, if we're reframing burnout as a suppression of your authenticity, right? Then the metrics of what constitutes burnout are different. It's not that I'm functioning or not functioning. Hopefully, you'll catch it earlier than that. The question is more, am I in touch with my true sense of purpose and meaning? And to what degree is my outer situation, both at home and at work, in alignment with that sense of deeper purpose? And part of the danger of personas or characters is that, Leigh, like you've heard of method acting, right? Like,
Right.
actors, delve into a role and they go so deeply into the role that even when the movie is over, it's hard for them to shake it, because you're have convinced yourself completely. You're in character. You're wearing the clothes. You're saying the words, right? And so the one of the first steps to step out of that is to begin to create opportunities for yourself to let down that persona consciously and intentionally. And when you let down that persona, asking yourself, what am I really feeling right now? And being honest. I mean, I can say that, but that's hard. And there's
Right.
layers of doing that. And so, hopefully you're starting to do that before you get to the breaking point. But even if you're approaching that, I would really recommend that people, find, what I and other people I think refer to as a little burnout recovery cocoon. Even if it doesn't have to be long. You don't have to take a sabbatical necessarily, though I'm in favor of sabbaticals. But even if it's the 3 minutes after you arrived home and you're in your driveway and you've unbuckled your seatbelt, you put on, a favorite song, 3 minutes long, and you drop your persona before you walk in the house, and you just try to connect with, what am I actually really feeling, and what is my sense of deeper purpose here? Am I aligned? I mean, just connecting in that way, that's just a small start. Now you all may think, well, that's ridiculous. How's that small amount of time going to help me with this massive problem I have of burnout? But again, if we're reframing it as a suppression of authenticity, you're giving yourself space on a regular basis, even on a small amount of time, to drop that persona and to feel what you feel like when you're not performing that. And
But
then
Dr.
start.
Diane, I mean, if I can just ask you this. So you say connect and find out or figure out and tap into your deeper purpose. What is, what is your meaning?
Yep.
I always do my happy hands. I turned 50 years old this year, and I have had what I consider and what others probably consider a successful career, a successful life. I have no clue what my deeper purpose or meaning is.
Truth, right? That's real. Yes. And that's why I laughed when I said it, because I'm
Okay.
tossing it off as though it was like an easy question, right? But I think that what I'm pointing to is that the first step towards that is to increasingly drop that persona. You have gotten to a point in your life where you've been able to drop that persona a little bit, right? And the fact that you're doing this work, for example, you led to it because something in you were able to tap into something deeper in you. But if you were full on during your corporate time, full on in your chief of staff persona at the height of your busyness, you probably would have had a harder time connecting to that unless you gave yourself space. And so that's what I'm just suggesting with the idea of this small, burnout recovery cocoon, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm saying 3 minutes, right? I've got a kid, I've got a mom, I know, and a career and a job. And so I know that I'm not trying to say to people, go and take a sabbatical. I'm saying find those little times in your day and begin that process, and we'll continue, right, when we're in this conversation, in this series, to continue to offer suggestions and tips for how you might go about doing that. But when
And I love that.
when I say the question about purpose and meaning, well, wow, I really want to unpack that with you, because I don't
I was
think
going
you're.
to say we need to unravel that, because
Yes.
I mean, I need to unravel it. I mean, I
Mhm.
would love to be at a space, as much as I said, as much as I embrace and love myself unconditionally,
Mm.
I would love to be in a place where I understood, what is my meaning? I'm at a place where I actually want to impact, help, and support others. What is that? How does that translate into action? I have no clue. What is my deeper purpose?
Uh-huh.
To,
Uh-huh.
to survive today and then breathe enough where I get to tomorrow and I can survive tomorrow. Um, and I feel like I've passed a stage where I'm threatened with burnout,
Mhm.
um, only because I have embraced my authentic self. I see now that who I am. And although I might shake and move and close my eyes and rock, and, I have ADHD too, so I might interrupt you. I do those things. That who's to say that that's not an executive leader as well? Who's to
Exactly.
tell me that who I am, where I've come, is not an executive leader, that I have to pretend not to be and not to see those things, in order to be seen as a leader. So I disagree with that. I would love, so as we only have a couple more minutes left, and so there are definitely lots of things to unravel here.
Mhm.
Willette is asking, just about that deeper meaning and that deeper context and that impact that we're able to have. How do we start tapping into that? And I think that would be a great next session for us to dig into. So, are there
Absolutely.
any other questions from the audience as I turn it back over to Dr. Diane? So, Dr. Diane, how do you see? So in that next session, I would love to
Mm.
to work with you to better understand how to start tapping into
Yes.
answering
That's a
that
good one.
question. How do you even start? I
How do
mean, we
you
don't
even
have time.
start?
How do you
Yeah,
even
we how
start
do you
saying,
even
what is my meaning?
start? Yes, and I think, it's so real, and I appreciate you being real about, hey, this is where I'm at in my life, and I don't feel like I'm, tapped into that quite yet. And first of all, I would say, before I drop some tips, I would say that it's funny that you say that, because I see the way you show up in the world, and even your wish to create this space. While you might think, I don't know the ultimate definitive purpose of my life, it is a non-linear kind of process. Like, we think it's linear and we're going to get some definitive uh, answer to that question, but we're living the answer to that question every single day. And I just want to say, I see you doing that, actually, even if you don't feel like there's some grand scroll that you roll out and you say, this is my life's purpose, right? So let's unpack that later, right? But I think that just to say, one step in the direction of tapping into that deeper purpose is, and y'all are going to hear me say this over and over again, because it's one of my favorite phrases, is we've got to come to our senses. When I was a kid growing up, going to Catholic school, right? The nuns would kind of say that sometimes. You got to come to your senses, and sometimes it would be accompanied with but but what that means is come into your five senses. Some scientists say there's more senses. There's 18 senses, but it means coming home to our bodies and starting to tune in over time to this inner compass, that our body doesn't lie. Our body never
Mhm.
lies. There's a lot of information and wisdom in the body that can direct us. Whatever our body is longing for, whatever our spirit is longing for, is a clue that is going to set us in the direction of our deepest purpose. And so in order for us to even know what we're longing for, right? If we're so busy playing a persona, how the heck are we going to know what we're actually genuinely longing for? Right? So this is something that for sure I would want to talk about in our next session. But for the folks who are here, Leigh, I wondered if there was any way to drop the link in the chat or wherever we can post it also. I have this resource that I just share with people that are just the kind of 3 easy tips to start to emerge from the process of burnout. And so I wanted to drop that in the chat. However we could do that, Leigh, that would be awesome. And
no worries. I'm able to drop it. So for those who are joining from YouTube, I'm able to post that directly into the chat. So I just did that. For those who are joining from LinkedIn Live, I will have to go back in after the session, and but I will provide everybody with that link.
Okay, that's very good. And then that's just the 3 easy tips and things that you can start trying, because I'd really like to hear how people, if people tried it and how it worked out. And as we go on, we're going to have more interaction with people. And thank you already for the questions that have come in. And we can, really have this conversation be driven by what you all want to know, and how
That's
can
what I'm hoping.
Yes.
That's what you and I can sit here and we can talk to each other all day long. I think we would very much enjoy that, but I am looking forward to the point where we are actually talking to, even in this format, that we're talking to the audience and that we're hearing from you and that we understand, does this resonate? Is there something that you want us to dive deeper into? And all of those amazing things. So I'm very much looking forward to having those conversations. We are out of time. And as it always happens, where on earth did the time go?
Yes.
It goes by so fast, right?
I dropped the link in the LinkedIn chat also. And let us know. Do you think what we said had any relevance to you, or did you think that we're full of it? Because we want to know. We need to know.
Oh, we're full of it, all right. Now,
Yeah,
don't answer that question because I know I'm full of it. But thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for joining us here. Lead, thrive, revive. There is life beyond burnout. So I look forward. We host this twice a month, every other week. So I very much am looking forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks. And you too, Dr. Diane.
Thank you. Stay strong, everybody. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.